The real cost of your university degree. The most expensive purchase of your life?
Hello, I'm a wallet. Do you remember me? This time I'm speaking to you from a very different place. I'm not tucked inside a grand decorated envelope. I'm not sitting in front of a shiny display window. Today, I'm speaking to you from a dark, small drawer right after university graduation. In that drawer, there's only me, a handful of worn banknotes, and that piece of paper, a diploma. My owner considered that diploma incredibly precious. He had it framed, hung it on the wall. Every morning he looks at it. Beautiful, glossy, official, the rector's signature, the university seal, a summary of 4 years of life. But there's something he never tells anyone. The bill he paid for that diploma is still being paid, and it will keep being paid for years to come. Today, I'm going to tell you the real story behind that bill. Chapter 1. The $200,000 piece of paper. Let's think about this for a moment. You wake up in the morning, make your coffee, and sit down. In front of you are 2 doors. Behind the first door is $200,000 in cash, money you can spend on anything you want, start a business with, invest, travel the world with. Behind the second door are 4 years of your life, sleepless nights, exams, and at the end of it all, a piece of paper. Which door would you choose? Sounds tempting, doesn't it? I'd pick the first door, of course. But when my owner finished high school, nobody asked that question. Nobody stepped forward and said, "Look, you're about to spend $200,000. Take a good look at what you're getting in return." Instead, everyone said, "If you graduate from university, you'll have a bright future and a great job. You can't survive in this world without a degree. Everyone's going to college, so you should." And my owner did exactly what he was told. In the United States, a student spends an average of $100,000 to $120,000 on a 4-year public university education. In private universities, that number climbs to $200,000, even $300,000. In Germany, public universities are relatively affordable, but when you add housing costs, transportation, textbooks, and living expenses, the real figure becomes quite substantial. And this money is rarely paid in cash. It's taken out as a loan, and that loan shows up on graduation day like an uninvited guest, slipping into the ceremony without being called, holding an invisible invoice. According to 2024 data, total student debt in the United States has surpassed $1.7 trillion. To put that number in perspective, it's larger than the annual GDP of many countries. And the bulk of that debt doesn't belong to people who found good jobs and are making regular payments. It belongs to young people who fall into the category of, "You got your degree, but we're not sure what to do with it." People who spent months, years searching for work, who had to take minimum wage jobs, who couldn't even earn enough to cover childcare while trying to repay their student loans. And it was at this point that my owner realized the true cost of that diploma wasn't just the money already spent, it was the time lost, the opportunities missed, and the weight of that debt gnawing at his bones every single month. I get a little lighter each month. And Chapter 2, Diploma Inflation. When everyone has one, no one does. In the 1970s, it was genuinely rare to find a university graduate in America. Graduates made up roughly 10% of the population. Back then, saying, "I have a university degree," actually meant something. Doors opened, hands were shaken, a seat was offered. A diploma was a real point of distinction, something people respected. So what happened next? Everyone started going to university. Governments encouraged it. Families pressured their children. Banks handed out cheap loans. The number of universities exploded. And today, in developed countries, more than 50% of the young population holds a university degree. They call this diploma inflation. And just like monetary inflation, when everyone has the same thing, that thing loses its value. The differentiation that a high school diploma once provided began to be provided by a university degree. Then the differentiation a university degree once offered began to be provided by a master's degree. Now, in some fields, even a master's degree isn't enough. A doctorate, certifications, international experience, internships. It's a never-ending race to the next credential. To keep up with this inflation, employers now list a university degree as a basic requirement even when the job itself is identical to what a high school graduate was doing 10 years ago. They call this degree inflation. A major retail chain requires a bachelor's degree for an executive assistant position. A customer service role at a retail store reads university graduate preferred. These jobs never required a university degree. But once everyone became degree holders, companies started using it as a screening tool. So think about it. My owner spent $200,000, gave 4 years of his life, and what he received was an entry ticket that high school graduates could have obtained for free just a decade earlier. The diploma didn't gain in value. The entry threshold was simply raised. That difference, subtle yet painful, matters enormously. And the most terrifying picture of this picture is this: the system feeds itself. As long as everyone says you need a degree to get a good job, everyone gets a degree. As long as everyone gets a degree, the value of degrees falls. As the value of degrees falls, people spend more money chasing a better degree. The cycle never breaks. Only the debt burden grows. Chapter 3: Return on Investment. A truth that varies by field. Now I need to ask the question everyone avoids, but absolutely must be asked. Is there a real return on a university degree? The answer is both yes and no, and that ambiguous answer is exactly where the real issue lives. A surgeon who graduated from medical school, yes, he will recover what he invested, many times over. Engineering, computer science, finance, law. In these fields, a degree is still a powerful investment tool. The numbers don't lie. But what about the other side? In the United States, the median starting salaries of graduates in education, sociology, fine arts, and the humanities are far too low to meaningfully pay off student debt within a reasonable time frame. A fine arts graduate who finishes with $120,000 in debt and enters the workforce at a $35,000 starting salary, according to a standard repayment plan, will spend decades paying off that debt. And over that period, the total interest paid will multiply the original principal several times over. Here, I need to state a painful truth, and please hear it without filters. Choosing a university and choosing a major is just as much a serious financial decision as it is a career decision. Nobody confronted you with this reality before pointing you toward a diploma. They told you, study what you love, the money will follow. That's partially true, but only partially. You should have asked yourselves these questions. You needed to. How long does it typically take graduates from this field to find employment? What is the starting salary? What is the median income 10 years in? And measured against those numbers, can the debt I'm about to take on be realistically paid off within a reasonable time frame? My owner never asked those questions. Nobody did. Because the system encourages you not to ask, to feel your way forward, to let yourself be carried by the current. Follow your dream, they said, but the question of who pays the bill for that dream was never raised. And when that bill arrived, I was left sitting in his drawer, an empty wallet, forced to answer for it all. Chapter 4: The Hidden Costs of the Academic Lifestyle. When we talked about the trap of your 30s, we discussed lifestyle inflation. University years carry their own version of lifestyle inflation, one nobody warns you about in advance. When my owner's university journey began, he wasn't living in the same city as his family, which meant a brand new expense had entered the picture: rent. The first year, he stayed in a modest dormitory, sharing a room with several others. But over time, his social circle expanded, social pressure mounted. By the second year, a nicer apartment.
By the third, splitting rent with flatmates. And by the fourth year, the logic of, "It's my final year, I deserve a little comfort," had taken hold. Each year, housing costs climbed by roughly 20 to 30%. On top of that came eating habits, working at cafes, going out for meals with friends, the social spending that comes with the university experience. Theaters, trips, expensive workshops, every expense justified with, "You're only young once." None of this is wrong, these are deeply human things, but none of it was budgeted for, none of it was planned. Throughout 4 years, my owner stayed afloat using student loans, scholarship money, and support from his family, but he also didn't hold back with a credit card for small expenses, for just this once, and those small expenses accumulated. By the time he graduated, he had his diploma in hand, and alongside it, $15,000 in additional credit card debt, stacked on top of the diploma debt. Now think about this. The end of university wasn't an ending at all. It was the peak of debt accumulation. Graduation day was, in reality, a ceremony marking the moment of his greatest financial obligation, and not a single person had ever described it that way. The visible face of university expenses looks like this: tuition, dormitory or rent, food, textbooks. But then there's the part of the iceberg below the surface: opportunity cost. For 4 years, you're not working. For 4 years, you're not saving. You're actually going into debt. And every dollar that doesn't flow toward investment during those 4 years disappears from the compounding eye of time. When the accounting is done 20 years later, that loss turns out to be far more expensive than the diploma itself. Chapter 5: The Quiet Rise of Alternative Paths. Now let me tell you something the system would prefer you never know, because starting in the 2010s, something quiet yet revolutionary began happening in the world. Major tech companies started removing the university degree requirement from their job listings. Apple, Google, IBM, Tesla, EY, Penguin Random House. Some of them explicitly declared, "We're no longer looking for a bachelor's degree." Why? Because they realized the best employees aren't necessarily the ones with the most prestigious diplomas. They're the most curious, the most adaptable, the most eager to learn. Alongside this, the boot camp and online certification world exploded. Software development camps, data science programs, digital marketing certifications, lasting anywhere from 3 months to a year. Their cost ranges from $10,000 to $20,000. That's 1/10, sometimes 1/20th of a 4-year university education. And the employment rates and starting salaries of graduates from these programs are outpacing those of some university graduates. Germany, Switzerland, and Northern Europe have long practiced a model of vocational education that is now attracting renewed global interest. In this model, after high school, you go directly into an apprenticeship at a company. You gain hands-on skills, you earn a salary, and you accumulate zero debt. The majority of Germany's auto craftsmen came through exactly this path, and their standard of living is remarkably high. Entrepreneurship has also never been more democratically accessible. Building an e-commerce site, launching a service business, creating digital content, all of these are things that can be started with nothing but a laptop and zero capital. Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, they all dropped out of university. These are exceptions, yes, of course, but the message here isn't drop out of college. The message is a diploma was never the only way forward. It never was. As a wallet, I'll tell you this: if the diploma system could genuinely promise that I'd be full 10 years from now, there would be no problem. But the system doesn't guarantee that. It only hands you an entry ticket, and the price of that ticket doubles every decade.
Chapter 6: The Golden Rules: Getting a Degree Wisely or Choosing Not to. If you're a young person about to make the university decision right now, or if you have a child approaching that age and you're confronting this choice, please hear me as clearly as you possibly can. Making this decision correctly lays the foundation for financial freedom for the rest of your life. Rule 1. Ask yourself this question first, then apply. Should I go to university? Is the wrong question. The right question is, in which field, from which school, at what cost, and within what time frame am I looking to earn a degree that will deliver a real return? Ask that question. Find the most honest answer you can, then decide. Research the median salary of graduates from your intended field 10 years out. What does the supply and demand for degrees in your country look like in that area? Talk to people who are already working in that field and ask them, if you were starting over today, what decision would you make? I'm confident their answers will surprise you. Rule 2. Set your borrowing ceiling before you begin. The widely accepted rule of thumb is this: the total debt you take on for university should not exceed your expected first year's salary in that field. So if your anticipated starting salary is $40,000, your total debt should stay below $40,000. Every dollar beyond that will become a chain that tightens around you financially in the years ahead. If the school you dream of attending can't make that math work, then that school is turning your dream into a financial nightmare. Getting the same degree at a public university for far less debt keeps your options open rather than closing them off one by one. Rule 3. Do the math on skills investment versus diploma investment. Actually run this calculation. If you had taken the $120,000 you're planning to spend on university and invested it instead, growing at 7% annually, 30 years from now, it would be worth approximately $913,000. Write that number down somewhere. Then calculate how much more you'll earn over those 30 years because of that diploma. How much more is it compared to what you'd earn without it? Does the difference justify $913,000? For most fields, no. For some fields, absolutely yes. Running this calculation is difficult, tedious, and kills the romance of it all. But we have to do it because the system wants us not to. Rule 4. Explore alternative paths without shame. Vocational training, certification programs, online courses, entrepreneurship, careers that begin with an internship. These aren't Plan B. In many cases, they are Plan A. Set aside your anxiety about what people around you will think. The belief that you can't succeed without a university degree is exactly that, a belief, not a fact. And it's a belief largely kept alive by those who profit from the university system. Seek out people who reached your career goal without a university degree. You can find them on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Study their paths closely. They will surprise you. Rule 5. If you already have the degree, maximize its value. If you've already made the decision to attend university, or if you've already graduated, the best thing you can do right now is extract the maximum possible return from that diploma. Did you do internships? Have you built a professional network? Are you actively pushing open the doors that diploma is supposed to unlock? A diploma is not a passive object. It's a tool that carries value only when actively used. Hanging in a frame on a wall, it earns no interest. Friends, university is not a bad thing. Knowledge is beautiful, curiosity is beautiful, and the campus years are beautiful. But beauty comes with a price tag, and that price tag grows heavier with every passing decade. The system hands you this decision at 17, when your brain is still developing, when you don't yet possess real financial literacy. It tells you to walk down the same corridor as everyone else and sends you running. And 10 years later, when you finally see where that corridor has led you,
it's too late to turn back. But you watched this video, you ran these numbers, you asked these questions. I want my owner to carry me not curled up in the corner of that frame beside a debt invoice, but freely, lightly, with a solid foundation of savings behind me. Because real education teaches you this: before every important decision, you must stop, take a breath, and calmly calculate the true cost, the true opportunity, and the true outcome of that choice. This skill is not taught in neither university nor classroom, but no lesson in life will ever serve you as well. I'm just a wallet, but I know this much: the most valuable investment isn't the money I hold, it's the mind that knows where to put it. If this confession, these calculations, this wallet's lament made you think, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. See you in the next one.